wipe out all of humanity and the universe wouldn't just go away. And Mage, they'd be like, what? Of course it would.
All right. I think a lot of these questions in the panel is very testosterone filled at this point, so we're going to give this lady here a chance to shoot one out.
For Mage, because I'm one of the fanatics. So wisdom. I just want to, wisdom is supposed to be this massive, major mechanic and goal and metaphysical whatever in the game. What is the thought from the developers behind it? Because it's a struggle, both IC and OOC now, to actually get it to be this playing in the game. So where do you guys think, from the books, from everything, it should be coming from? What was it rooted in?
You're going to stick me with this, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You look at me like going, you're taking this question.
Let's see what you say first.
You're still my boss for next week. Basically, when I approached the development of Wisdom, I looked at a lot. Luckily, I had the advantage of the line had been developed and going on for a little over a year at the point I started working on it. And so some kind of slight shift in how Wisdom was being used and perceived crept into the line and made it more tangible. So I was able to kind of dig into that, which is really, really helpful for me. Because when I first approached as well, I was a little confused as to what exactly was going on. Really, to me, wisdom, the idea of wisdom is the struggle between being a human and being a mage. It's because you could be the best mage in the world, but you're not really a human being anymore. And that's where archmages go, and they go off into the heavens, and they totally don't do anything evil at all. They're perfectly nice people. But if you embrace your human side, you have to go to work, and you have to have relationships, and you have to be with people, and you have to not just exercise your will whenever it's inconvenient. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you can't just mind control them to park their car and get out of your way. You have to deal with it, because that's what being human is about, is not having that power that you have. And so it's like carrying around a gun everywhere you go and never being able to shoot it. It's a struggle, and that's, to me, what wisdom is supposed to be. But the problem, I think, is that while there may have crept into the book the idea that there's this codified view of wisdom, and there's certainly from a game mechanic perspective there is, I don't think there is from an in-game perspective. I think it's to be human is different to each person. And certainly when you put on top of that the mind-altering ability to bend the universe to your whim, no, being a human is this way, and if you don't like it, I'm going to turn you into a newt. Hey, you're no longer a human, I win. So, absolutely, it's one more thing for mages to argue about, which I think is fantastic. Because mages should never hang out and get along.
All right, over here.
Follow up on that with the whole wisdom and also for humanity, harmony, etc. In Dark Ages, the old one, you had the roads, and then there were minor variations of the paths for each of the roads. Has there been given thought to say minor variations for the path of wisdom, or based on the borders, or based on the paths? So the core principle still stays the same, but like one or two tweaks to it to tailor-make it to that particular group.
I mean, you could do that sort of thing if that's where you want to go, but part of the idea of wisdom, again, comes actually a little more toward the werewolf side, which is that it's where the mage has to recognize that he's not alone, that there are limitations, and it's how do you balance those, and how do you walk through the world with this ultimate power you're sort of learning, but yet using it wisely and not breaking everything. And there's a degree to which, if you make that subjective, certain people then get to twist it in some ways and so on. And that's sort of heading towards hubris in a way. It's, it honestly is kind of, it was one of the things to set it apart from Old Mage, which was it's consensual reality, it's what I make of reality. And this was more to saying, no, it's not just what you say reality is, because there are whole laws in this sort of thing too.
Sure, absolutely. And that's what and to kind of clarify what I was saying earlier, is that I believe that out of game that there needs to be a codified wisdom, and I tried to make that more codified in the book, but inside the game, what comprises wisdom should constantly be up for debate.
Yes. People should be arguing about it all the time. There should all be those lines, because mage is nothing if not a constant ongoing theological argument.
Exactly. the kind of as a counterpoint, Hunter the Vigil actually has an optional set of rules in which you can kind of tweak your morality. But my understanding from talking to Chuck at length was that the idea for that was because that's what humans are willing to give up in order to protect what they think is right. Whereas with mages, you have everything available to you. You don't have to give anything up. And so you have this straitjacket of morality that you may try to twist around and interpret to your own ends, which means you're also still losing that, well, perhaps believing that you don't. But with Hunter, you're really just a human in a lot of respects, and so what are you willing to give up of your soul and therefore become more like the monsters that you're hunting? So that was, again, a very intentional, tactical choice on the developer to evoke a certain style of game by making that choice. I don't think certainly if people wanted to play it in their own house games, if they're having fun with it, fantastic, that's awesome, but I don't think it quite evokes where at least I had in mind for the live action game.
There's some really great parallels with real world philosophy too, if you look at them. I mean, if you just strip down Buddhism, for instance, and you get down to the whole basic theory that attachment is suffering, then to give up all suffering, you give up all attachments. Are you willing to give up love to be, wise? Because that's the question they're asking in, real world theology, how can we do less?
I'll point out from an anthropological perspective as well that different cultures don't necessarily agree on what makes a human or a good person. So there's certainly a little bit of westernization in some of the morality, especially in vampire.
Sure.
It's got that strong theme of Judeo-Christian mythology that permeated the old vampire. Less so in the new one, but there's some influence there. So there's certainly room to make an argument that what a specific culture believes is morally appropriate and is therefore appropriate to humanity or wisdom or harmony might vary or diverge from what you see necessarily in these books. The big problem is that once you open the door to divergent forms of morality, you open the door to path of what I was going to do anyway.
Yes.
Oh, back here.
So, one of my favorite changes between the old Awakening and the Ascension, sorry, I forgot for a second, is the change in the paradox, the way paradox work. What was actually the reasoning for making that change?
Gosh, I wish I could tell you. I honestly don't remember it anymore.
That's awesome.
It's been so long.
He spent most of the time in this haze.
Too much paradox backlash. It removed my memory. I really, seriously, I just don't remember enough about why we did it that way versus other ways and stuff. It's just the way that worked out, I guess.
And honestly,
part of the thing, too, is we wanted to avoid that idea. It's just, we certainly didn't want you to save it up and have it hit by it later and stuff and so on. Part of it, one of the overall ideas behind the new Mage when he did it is it had to be a lot friendlier to people who weren't playing Mage. Mage is a great game, Ascension was a great game, but to run it, you kind of had to have your chops down as a good storyteller and stuff. And to really fully participate as a player, you had to really dive into it and know what you were doing, or not necessarily know what you're doing, but be able to learn what you were doing. And we wanted to really have an experience that was just so much more simpler for anybody to just come into the game and pick up. And I think the new paradox system, it's honestly a lot more set out. It's honestly there on the page for you in a sense. So that was kind of the idea.
And the tweaks I made to it, again, were exclusively for game design reasons. Was because, again, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to make paradox harsher. I also want to make it faster because the previous system I saw was basically lots of, okay, I cast a spell. Card. I don't explode. Okay, now next spell. Card. Now I do explode. And I wanted to avoid that, and so I was willing to sacrifice my vision of paradox danger in order for speed, because it's such a crucial part of the game, and there's no way I was going to allow any game with name Mage on it not have a paradox system by our company. So it was, if I have to choose between the two, I'll take speed. I was lucky enough that I had some fantastic playtesters who had some great ideas and were able to, between all of their input and feedback, I was able to come together with a system that I think it's very close to accomplishing both goals. But again, the one card draw system was definitely my holy grail. It was, in fact, on my 10 bullet point design documents, one of the bullet points was faster paradox. That was way above a lot of my other design considerations. So,
all right, I'm going to take one more. Right over here.
If we could speak a little bit about the antagonist possibly for both venues.